Alright, so we're going to take a look at a game in the tournament, the defense, between Empire and Dignitas. And so the defense, as we've mentioned before, is a tournament run by the Joan Dota organization, primarily commented by Tobywan. And these two teams are two of the best teams around right now. They're very interesting to watch. They recently just came off a series this past weekend in the playoffs of the Premier League tournament, which was quite interesting to watch. Sort of, there were a lot of predictions. Basically, the team that won they were paired up against each other in the first round, essentially the semifinals, the winners bracket semifinals. And the prediction made by some people was that whichever team won that winners bracket semifinal match would go on to win the entire tournament. And that actually was exactly what happened. Empire won in the winners bracket semifinal 2-1, and then they went on to win the entire tournament. I think they didn't drop a single game after that point. Whereas Dignitas, obviously, they lost to Empire 1-2 in that winners bracket semifinal. They then prevailed over Fnatic, but lost to Virtus Pro in the winners bracket in the losers bracket final. Virtus Pro went on to lose against Empire. Actually, Virtus Pro lost against Empire twice, the winners bracket final and then again in the grand final, without taking a game at either of those junctures. So, interesting sort of setup. Empire obviously coming off that tournament win. Dignitas sort of coming off a little bit of a disappointment, but I think they still performed quite well. And then in this tournament, in the defense, both of these teams are in Group B, and Dignitas is actually undefeated. They're 6-0, and Empire is 4-1. So in terms of who needs this win to stay alive in the defense, I think both teams are likely to advance from Group B, but Empire is in a slightly more precarious, though not that substantially more precarious position than Dignitas. They're essentially just playing for seeding coming out of the groups. I'm not exactly sure how the playoff structure of the defense is organized, but probably the higher you are in your group, the more favorable your draw is coming out of the group stage. So if you're Dignitas, you definitely want to stay undefeated if you can. I think this might, if it's just one game against each other team, this is actually Dignitas the last game. And if you're Empire, you want to win as many as you can. You probably want that second seed over that Swedish team, the Trilly team. So this should be an interesting game. I think this is these teams' first matchup since their Premier League fixture, and you can see that Dignitas rushes to ban Wisp. So what this sort of signals is Empire just basically won the entire tournament of the Premier League on the back of this hero. And a lot of teams, particularly Virtus Pro, were just happy to give Empire that Wisp game after game after game. And I don't know, it seemed kind of iffy because essentially Empire has so many players that can play Wisp, and it can play it extremely well and pair it with all sorts of other heroes. It doesn't have to be with the Chaos Knight. It can be with the Chaos Knight, but they have done it with other heroes as well. So I think this makes sense. In the 2 bans before picking regime, it's tough to justify banning a hero that's specifically another team. Like saying, oh, this team is really good with this hero, we should ban it, is typically not justified in the 2-ban regime. You want to ban heroes that are already among the absolute upper echelon. But if a particular hero that a team specializes in is also a hero that is in the top upper echelon, then it's much more justifiable to ban it. So in this case, Wisp is already one of the strongest heroes in this Western European, North American metagame, and doubly so when you realize that Empire is actually very strong with her. And so you can ban the Wisp and not feel like you're sort of wasting a ban. Their other ban is Undying, also a sort of upper echelon hero. And then Empire bans out Batrider and Nyx Assassin. So pretty standard bans. I just wanted to note about the Wisp because it really is a case of this is a very strong hero in any case, and also Empire seem unable of losing with it. I don't actually know what the statistics are for Empire's win rate with Wisp, but I would suspect that it's pretty... I would be surprised if it weren't extremely good. And just a little bit more about these two teams. So both these teams have been around for a little while. Empire did a major roster realignment, I think, sometime in late summer, like just after the International, and that was really what brought them to prominence. Before that, they were nothing special as a team. But after they made their roster changes after the International 2 and picked up basically, I think, 4 new players, they've been extremely strong. They've been, I would say, one of the 3 strongest European teams at all points, and at points they sort of threaten to be the absolute strongest team in Europe. And they're a mixed Russian-Ukrainian team, so they bring that sort of CIS edge to proceedings where they play extremely aggressively and sort of seek to just blow out the game in terms of kills, but they do it in an intelligent way. They don't just feed kill after kill onto the opposing team like you sometimes see some of the weaker CIS teams do. They sort of have this intelligent aggression sense. phrase that comes from, in the International 2, I think, either Orange, I think the Malaysian team Orange was the ones that said that they had intelligent aggression, and so that's really what Empire brings to the table. So, Darkseer, Dignitas' first pickup, and then countered with Keeper of the Light and Magnus. These first three, all very, very typical. You know, you have your four bands, which are some of the strongest heroes, and then whichever strongest heroes are left over, that's who you pick up. So Dignitas decides that they don't actually want Magnus. That there could be a compelling reason to pick up Magnus first, but they choose to pick up Darkseer. They just prefer that extra team fight. And Empire gets Magnus, who they're pretty good with, and they get Keeper of the Light, one of the strongest supports as well. So no surprise to see these. Then we go range a little bit of field. We've got Queen of Pain, very strong mid choice. Nothing wrong with this. And Bane is also a good hero, but he's one that we see a little less often. He's picked up intermittently in the Western metagame. I want to talk about him because I don't think we've ever talked about him on this stream and what he sort of brings to the table. So, just quickly, the other heroes. We've got Teamfight in the form of Darkseer, possible solo lane. Then we've got the mid hero for Queen of Pain. So they've got the solo lane locked up and the mid locked up, which essentially means that if they're going to run a tri-lane, a lane of 3 heroes, and the safe bottom lane for Radiant, they need 2 supports and a carry. So Bane is one of the supports that they can use, although Bane actually can also be played as a mid and other particular roles. And then Empire, meanwhile, has Magnus. He can be played either mid or solo, and Keeper of the Light, who's played as a support on the safe lane. And they end up picking Lifestealer. So Lifestealer actually is fairly versatile. He can play in a dual mid or safe lane, or actually I have seen him lately occasionally as the side lane solo, although it's kind of touch and go. And it can also be played in the jungle, although that's also kind of less done at the pro level, although I have seen it, than it is at the amateur sort of public game level. But also, Lifestealer incredibly strong. So, Bane, what does he do? So he's got this Enfeeble, which goes through BKB, so you can't actually prevent Enfeeble from hitting you. Maybe with Lincolns, I suppose you can. And it reduces the physical damage of a hero that it hits. So it's really an anti-carry ability. So at max rank, it reduces the damage dealt by 120 by a hero. And this can reduce them down to, 0. So you can, if you level Enfeeble early, for instance, and you're in a lane against like for instance, if they run an aggressive tri-lane, which is when you run your 3 heroes up against the other team's 3 heroes in their safe lane, with the idea being that you can sort of overwhelm them in terms of killing power and either get kills on them or just make sure that the opposing carry doesn't actually get any farm. If you're running an aggressive tri-lane, or you're in the middle, or you're somehow facing up against a hero who needs to do damage to actually get that farm, you can use this Bane and Enfeeble to ensure that they don't get any farm. Like, if you get it to level 2 pretty quickly, 60 damage is, for some carries, almost all they do. So, and even if it's not, even if they do, say, 80, it's much harder to get last hits and get gold as a carry when your damage is about 20 than it is when your damage is about 80. I mean, the window of opportunity for you to kill that monster is just 4 times narrower, right? And so on and so forth with the rest of it. It's a very strong anti-carry ability, pretty much at all stages of the game. Interesting bands that are coming out. So we got this Naga Siren band and this Morphling band. These are targeted bands at Dignitas. They're sort of thinking of what Dignitas could use as their carry. Morphling is something that Dignitas has been using lately. They sort of resurrected this hero. I haven't seen it succeed that much for them, but certainly there are some things to be said about it. Morphling was the bête noire of the International 2 in some respects. He was used in almost every game because there wasn't quite enough room to ban him in the initial 6 bans, and consequently every team would sort of just pick him up as their carry. And he had a monstrous win rate. He really dominated the entire tournament. And after that, he received a bevy of nerfs. And one of the major nerfs was that Morphling was able to kill heroes extremely quickly just by casting spells on them and then using his Ethereal Blade item. One of the things that was nerfed was that his cast time was almost doubled after the International 2. Sorry, it wasn't doubled. It was increased by 50%. And since then, actually, Ice Frog, the designer of Dota, has been peeling back some of the nerfs made to Morphling. So actually, while his damage is lower and the mana cost to switch his stats, which is one of his signature abilities, is still increased, his cast time changes actually got reverted, and his cast time is now better than it was prior to the, in the International too. So in some respects he's actually a better hero, though in more important respects he's worse. But anyway, Dignitas has been using him a little bit. They've been putting Aoi 2000 on that Morphling, so it's definitely an interesting choice. And Empire actually chooses to ban out Phantom Lancer as well, so even though they have the Keeper of the Light, which is the best pair with Phantom Lancer, they obviously already have a carry, so they may not want... You can go dual carry like that with Lifestealer in some situations, but I don't think they very much want to. Dignitas, meanwhile, takes out Clinks. This set of 3 bans at the end is a much more team-specific ban area. Like, you can ban what the other team uses without really fearing that you're wasting a ban. And so that's why we see things like the Morphling ban on Empire's side and the Clinks ban on Dignitas' side, because Funnick on Empire is extremely strong with Clinks, and he's a very, very good safe lane solo Clinks. So Dignitas picks up Luna, very solid choice for their carry. Empire sort of were punishing their maybe attempts to get overly cute. They're like, you can't get cute with a Naga Siren, who's maybe not that popular these days, but you could probably make use of her, and you can't get cute with a Morphling. And Dignitas decides to just go standard. So they're like, well, you know, fine, we won't. We'll just go very, very standard with this Luna and just win, you know, a standard normal game. Luna, very good hero. She's able to deal quite a bit of AoE damage later on with Moonglaive, but she's actually quite strong early for a carry because she buffs her team with Lunar Blessing, which makes her good in early small engagements. She has great magic damage with the combination of Lucent Beam and Eclipse, and she's basically just threatening at all stages of the game until very, 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 very late when some heroes can overwhelm her. So let's go back to Bane, because we only really talked about Enfeeble. Enfeeble is an interesting ability, but really what Bane brings to the table is crowd control. So he's got 2 abilities that disable heroes, Nightmare and Fiend's Grip, and they work quite differently, so I'll explain both of them. Nightmare lasts up to 7 seconds at max rank, which is incredible, but it's not quite a stun. I mean, it fully disables the target, but your fellow heroes cannot actually physically attack the target, because then the Nightmare transfers to those heroes. So if you Nightmare, say, Lifestealer, and he's disabled, and Queen of Pain tries to attack him, the Nightmare will switch to the Queen of Pain, which is definitely not what you want. You don't want the hero to be 7 seconds. What you can do is you can use spells to wake them up. So you can, if you disable the Lifestealer and then after 4 seconds of the 7 you realize that you actually want to kill him now, you can just use a spell and it won't actually transfer the Nightmare. It'll just break the sleep. And then Bane's other crowd control ability is Fiend's Grip. So this is his ultimate. And what Fiend's Grip does is it also disables for a pretty long duration, for 5 full seconds, 7 with Scepter, but Scepter isn't typically picked up on Bane. So for 5 seconds they're disabled. It's actually a channeled ability, sort of like Enigma's Black Hole, so it can be, it's funny that I said Enigma at that point, so it can be interrupted by damage. Sorry, not by damage, by stuns or other disables. But during that time, so Bane is effectively disabled because he's channeling, and the target is disabling. But not only does it disable for a very long 5 seconds, it also does quite a bit of damage, like very generous damage on this ability, and it drains mana, which is sort of a fringe thing. It's just Bane has huge issues with mana pool, so one of the ways that the game balances that out is that it can regain some of that mana with Fiend's Grip. So one of the things that makes Bane pretty strong is he can just come into a lane in sort of a ganking position and just disable one hero for 7 seconds with Nightmare and another hero for 5 seconds with Fiend's Grip. And that's a lot of time for your team to play around with whatever they want. So let's go back to the draft and check out the final picks. We've got Bounty Hunter, who was once upon a time was just incredibly popular. He was always picked up very, very early or even banned early. But there was just a tiny tweak made to him, which I don't actually think the tweak was what changed his popularity. It's sort of, I think he was already due for sort of a, you know, getting back down to earth in some respects. And additionally, he got this nerf. So they made it so that the track, whoa, that is terrifying. I can't even look at that. They made it so that his track ability, which is that his ultimate, which creates a gold bounty on a character that you target, plus it reveals stealth, plus it increases movement speed while going around that character. It used to also decrease armor. So all they did was they took out the armor decreasing element of that. So making him a little less valuable in team fights, especially later on in the game when it has that bigger armor reduction at level 16. Not really that substantial a change, especially because a lot of games with Bounty Hunter never really reach the point at which he gets to level 16. So, you know, at level 6 and 11, the armor reduction wasn't that big. But it was a minor nerf, but I don't think that minor nerf in and of itself was enough to make Bounty Hunter much, much less popular. But he has become less popular. It's more that teams group up early as 5 and sort of just push and have team engagements. And that's an area where, especially early, Bounty Hunter doesn't really shine. The role of Bounty Hunter in all these teams was sort of early on, get your level 6, probably in the solo lane, and then walk around tracking people and getting those pickoffs, 1v1 or 2v2. But if the game immediately transitions from the laning phase into sort of big mass group engagements, or if people just are always playing safe and aren't really in a position for Bounty Hunter to do much, that's much less effective, and you aren't actually able to get that gold advantage that you would get from the Bounty Hunter wandering around and tracking and killing people. So, and then, you know, in a 5v5 engagement, if Bounty Hunter... if you sort of sacrifice the farm on the Bounty Hunter early, like if you put him on the side lane solo, if you have a solo Bounty Hunter up against 2 or 3 heroes of the opposing team, you're not really going to expect that Bounty Hunter to get much farm up until he reaches level 6. And the rationale most teams use is, okay, he won't get much farm until level 6, but once he's level 6, that track gold, the extra gold from getting kills with that track debuff activated, will be enough to catch him up to where he would be if he were in a more standard lane. So it's sort of, we're okay with putting Bounty Hunter and not getting him in a farm early on, because he'll make that up in the early to mid game. I cannot click that. That is so terrifying. But if those tracks never come, all you end up with is a hero who's very, very squishy, doesn't do a lot of damage, and doesn't bring a lot to the table. So the position that Bounty Hunter was being used in was sort of muscled out by changes in the metagame and changes in the style of play that teams use. But in this case, Empire, I think, feel that they do have enough of a formidable army, essentially, that they can't get those kills in the Bounty Hunter. And honestly, in terms of side lane solo heroes, they didn't have that many great options, and excuse me, Magnus has sort of been nerfed in his side lane potential. He's still a pretty good side lane hero, but maybe they felt that with the Bane as a support, they would have a much more difficulty actually keeping that Magnus alive, because he wouldn't, with such long disables, this skewer, he might never get a chance to cast it, and he might just get dominated in that lane. Whereas Bounty Hunter will have a little bit of an easier time. So, what else did I want to talk about? Right, so Dignitas picks up Enigma. So what they're going to do, most likely, is run Aoi in the... Actually, they have the option of running this in the top lane, but I think almost certainly they'll run Aoi 2000 on this Luna with Bane in the bottom lane. And the reason they'll do this in the... So, you know how I mentioned Bane is strong in an aggressive tri-lane? What they could do is run an aggressive lane, but they actually can't, because this Enigma really needs to be in the jungle or in a solo lane. So most likely they're going to run this Enigma in this jungle over here. And then they're going to put Bane and Luna here. And so if they want to get kills against the Bounty Hunter that Empire are going to put in this lane, which is very possible with these heroes actually, they need to make sure that Enigma comes out and they kill sort of over here. So they want the Bane to disable, the Luna to deal damage, and the Enigma to come out and provide that additional disable from the Malefice and the additional damage on top of that. So consequently, they have to run it sort of in their safe lane. They can't really run up here, because then that would mean that the Enigma would have to farm the opposing jungle, which is much, much more dangerous. We actually have seen it, and it is a possibility since Empire do not have a hero that's going to be farming the jungle, but it's very risky. So that would be the risky play, and I don't think Dignitas are going to go for that. So, right. So I want to talk about this last pick. So they pick up the Enigma, and it's really because up to that point, they really lacked a strong teamfight disable. So they have this two single target disables from Bane, which are very useful, but in a teamfight situation, you really want to have something to counteract heroes like this huge Magnus that can just reverse polarity your entire team, and then Keeper of the Light, who can layer on tons of magic damage on top of that. So Dignitas' answer to that is really going to be this Enigma. So this black hole, there's an interesting dichotomy between, or similarity, I guess, between black hole and reverse polarity. They're quite similar abilities in some respects. The reverse polarity is generally favored these days just because it's a lower cooldown. It does, I think, comparable damage, a little less. It's instant, so it's not channeled, so you don't have to wait for the channel to happen, and Magnus can't actually get interrupted from reverse polarity, whereas Enigma definitely can get interrupted from the black hole. It packs people in tighter. I mean, there's just a lot of reasons why reverse polarity is kind of almost overcurve in some respects. But nonetheless, black hole is still a very, very formidable ability. It does actually deal more damage, particularly towards the center of the black hole, to heroes than the reverse polarity does. And its duration is 4 seconds at all ranks, so especially at early ranks, it's quite a bit longer than reverse polarity is on Magnus. But definitely, I mean, the fact is, nobody is going to pick Enigma over Magnus. They'll pick Enigma as a sort of poor man's Magnus if they're not able to get Magnus because he's either banned or the other team picked him up. So in this case, Dignitas gets the Enigma, but that's I mean, it's still great. He's still a great hero. He's just not quite as great as Magnus, who's a little ridiculous right now. And then the final pick for Empire was Disruptor. So we've seen this Disruptor more and more lately, and I think that makes sense. He's definitely an underappreciated support, and he's quite subtle in what he does, which is why maybe he was underappreciated or underpicked. But teams are definitely starting to pick up on the fact that he's a good support choice. He brings a lot to the table that almost no other support does. He's just got this very, very unique toolkit. Like, you have some supports that just sort of, do the same thing other supports do, but they do it better. But Disruptor has two abilities that are quite, I think, unique. So he's got this AoE soft disable in terms of his kinetic field. Like, at the max rank, for 4 seconds, it creates a 300 radius circle that enemies can't leave or come into. So it's an area denial skill, but it's an area denial skill in an interesting way that sort of not a lot of other abilities do. And then he's also got this Glimpse. Glimpse is absolutely unique. So what Glimpse does is it shoots out very, very quickly a projectile that drags a hero back to where they were 4 seconds ago. So one of the uses of Glimpse, one of the sort of annoying uses, is that you can simply unteleport heroes. So, and keep in mind the cast range increases. So 2,000 cast range, which is about 2 screens worth of range at level 2. At level 4. So let's say that Empire are sieging this top tower, and Dignitas starts to teleport in the Luna. Empire sees the Luna teleport circle, and the Disruptor gets ready. As soon as Luna appears, Disruptor casts Glimpse on her. What this does is it drags Luna all the way back to the point that she teleported from, but the teleport scroll is gone. So it just changes the hero's position, not anything else, not their health, mana, items, or anything else. So now the Luna's teleport cooldown is going, and she's been unteleported, and she can't get back. And essentially that means, if Dignitas were relying on that Luna to actually save this lane, this tower's gone. So that's one use of Glimpse, and maybe the most obvious. There are many, many other uses. You can drag people back into your kinetic field. You can drag them from position to position. You can ensure that a hero who's trying to escape can't escape. It's great against Queen of Pain for that exact reason. She can, if you have good vision and she blinks away from you, you can unblink her and kill her immediately. So let's talk about the lanes. As I said, this Darkseer, very typical side lane solo hero, and that's exactly how they're using him. He's level 1. He hasn't trained quite an ability yet because he doesn't know how dangerous the lane is, so he doesn't know whether he needs Surge first or Ion Shell first. I think probably Surge is a safer choice, because he's being kept off lane completely by Goblack here. Keeper of the Light is more than happy to take the hits from this ranged creep just to make sure that the Darkseer isn't actually able to get up to the lane. So top lane is this very standard tri-lane using the Lifestealer as the hard carry, and then having the Keeper of the Light and the Disruptor as the supports. So they're going to work to keep this Darkseer off the lane, which they're doing an amazing job of so far, just using that Disruptor Thunderstrike to deal damage. And the Keeper of the Light, so the Keeper of the Light Disruptor is playing Keep Away with the Darkseer, and the Lifestealer just getting the maximum amount of farm that he can. Already great farm, because there's no opposition to him. Meanwhile, in this lane, we've got the sort of converse. We've got the Luna doing the farm, and the Bane acting as a support, and the Enigma in the jungle. So this is a more less problematic lane for Bounty Hunter down here than it is for Darkseer up top so far, at least. Once Darkseer gets a few levels, it'll be easier for him. Obviously, they already have the Sentry Ward here, so they can detect Bounty Hunter if he goes into a range of this. Yeah, they just give him a little poke, let him know that he's not welcome. But you can see that the Bounty Hunter actually has picked up 2 last hits, whereas the Darkseer's only picked up 1. And I think the Bounty Hunter is quite a bit ahead on this XP. This is just awful. Is this a real, like cosmetic item? It is a real cosmetic item. I hate it. I hate this item. So, sorry, at any rate, this Bounty Hunter is already level 3, whereas Darkseer is only level 1. So you can see that already this solo lane is working much, much better for Empire than this solo lane is working for Dignitas. In the middle of that smash with the Queen of Pain versus the Magnus. This is a lane that should a little bit favor the Queen of Pain, I think. But so far Scandal's been doing really, really well. I think is he bottle ferrying? He picked up a very early bottle, and he's using the Courier to bring it back and forth from the fountain to make sure that he can get refills and get that mana without actually having to take the runes. Because if you're laning against the Queen of Pain in the middle, the odds of you getting to these rune spots faster than the Queen of Pain are essentially nil, because she can blink, she's quite fast, like she won't have any issues to be beating you to those runes. Consequently, if you're a Magnus and you really need that mana, which you do, you can't get farm without essentially using this Shockwave ability. You really need to make sure that that bottle is going to come to you whenever possible. So right now, Scandal, he's a very experienced Magnus player. He's very experienced at running Magnus mid, and consequently he's not taking that much harassment from Fogged in this middle lane, and he's getting all the farm that he sort of needs. So about even. Magnus is going to be behind a little bit on XP just because he's not able to get those So with Shockwave, you are able to get last hits, like you are able to get your farm by killing the opposing creeps, but you're not going to be able to deny. Because if you try to come up and deny creeps, you're coming within range of this great Queen of Pain harassment damage, and he's sort of maximum Queen Scream of Pain first, so all that short range AoE. Consequently, you can see that even though they have the same amount of actual farm, like the same amount of creep last hits, Queen of Pain has 7 denies, whereas Magnus has 0 denies. Oh, he does manage to pick up a rune, so really good. He beats Darkseer to that rune by using his Skewer charge, which is really smart, and this sort of denies this Darkseer even more a bit up here. So a very tough situation for Universe. He's really falling behind, even relative to this Bounty Hunter who's been able to stay in creep range mostly. Actually, they chase him out. They managed to chase Bounty Hunter out, so actually now Darkseer and Bounty Hunter are more or less... No, still, Bounty Hunter is still substantially ahead in development on Darkseer, but... certainly, both fairly tough solo lanes for them. And Funnick is coming back, so he's going to keep trying to get that XP, try to level up to level 6. Bounty Hunter, really, you only pick Bounty Hunter when you're fairly confident that he will be able to hit level 6 in a timely fashion on the solo lane. And so far, he's been doing okay. Really, level 4 at this point is not by any means bad. I hate that portrait. I hate it so much. And yeah, now that the creep wave is under his tower, he'll be able to do that even more effectively. So definitely Empire doing a better job of denying the Darkseer than Dignitas are doing at denying the Bounty Hunter. But still interesting. What's interesting to me also is Blurry Brain just has that little bit of extra farm on Luna. It's pretty close, but he's just that little bit of advantage, and that's really the difference between a completely free lane and an even nominally contested lane. So Funnick can just do annoying things like hit his creeps so that Luna can't quite get the last hit in ways that Darkseer is unable to because he's so far away from the creep lane. He is now able to harass with his Ion Shell, so this is an improvement, and this will do some damage to Blurry Brain. But he's definitely going for the greedy Lifestealer build where you go Hand of Midas early. Lifestealer really wants attack speed. His Feast and Open Wounds that give him percentage-based lifesteal really want his attack speed to just be really quick so he can steal all that life and really keep his health high. And so any attack speed item is great on Lifestealer. And if you're Lifestealer and you're acting as the primary carrier of your team, attack speed and extra gold are great for you. So that's why Lifestealers pretty commonly go Hand of Midas, especially when they're expected to perform the primary carry role for their team. They might eschew it if they're, not the primary #1 carry, because, I don't need all that gold if my team isn't completely just relying on me to get the farm. But in this case, where both teams are playing very safe early, it's smart of them. They try to bring in the Enigma to kill Bounty Hunter here, but it's not going to work. Funnick, very smart instincts there. He instinctually knew where this Sentry Ward was. I don't know if it's in tower range. It might actually be in tower range, so you might be able to see it. But he knew roughly where the ward was, and consequently, if he had walked north, the ward would still have seen him. It was only by going west into the river that he managed to escape the possible kill there. However, now that Funnick's gone, all these Eidolons from Enigma can do a lot of damage to this tower, so they will definitely do a ton of damage down here. The tower will eventually pick them off, but not before they take the tower down by an extremely substantial amount of life. So down to 272 here. This tower is most likely going to be the first one to fall. And you can see Goblak on this Keeper of the Light rotating down here. Sorry, so what was I talking about? Right, this Lifestealer, he's picked up his early Midas, and so he's going to be developing quite a bit faster than Luna just on baseline. And additionally, he's just getting better farm just straight up due to the lane being a little safer and a little less complicated for him. You can see that Lifestealer's gone phase boots. In pub games and in sort of earlier games, you might have seen Lifestealers typically go power treads just for the additional statistics and the additional attack speed. Like I said, attack speed is always really good on Lifestealers, so people pick up power treads for that reason in addition to other ones. But a more recent trend, and an also fairly popular one, has been this phase boots on Lifestealer. So any strength hero that deals a lot of damage in the form of melee really has this issue that, how do I catch opposing heroes? And Lifestealer has Open Wounds to do that. So it's a very big slow, a tapering slow. So it starts out as, I think, 70% and then tapers down. So you can see it being used on Universe here. Oh, he doesn't get away, actually. Wow. I really thought he'd get away there, but Lifestealer manages to hit him just enough to actually bring him down. It's tough as Lifestealer as Darkseer to know when to time your surge to get away from something like a Lifestealer, because once he uses the Open Wounds, you can sort of let it taper, or you can use your surge immediately. You definitely don't want to use it before open wounds because that's just sort of a waste. But in that case, he sort of messes up. And wow, I'm my mistake for missing that kill, actually. But both Bane and Enigma managed to get picked off by the intervention of the Magnus, the Bounty Hunter, and Goblack on the Keeper of the Light here. So lots of damage getting thrown out there, and they only lose the Bounty Hunter. And this is definitely a very, very, very bad position to be in for Dignitas this early, because Lifesteal was already ahead on farm of your Luna. And he also picked up Midas, so the consolation is, okay, they're weaker early because they just have this Midas on this Lifestealer. But then he picks up a kill. He actually picks up a tower kill, and so that's a ton more gold being thrown that Lifestealer's way. You can just see, if you look at the gold per minute, he's almost at 600 gold per minute at this stage. So between getting the first blood, so that's 200 extra gold for you, and getting the tower kill, so that's even more extra gold for you, it's just lifted Blow Your Brain up to just incredibly fast development. Does he have full armlet? He's getting very, very close to a full armlet, so that'll already make him extremely effective, and with the armlet and the Hand of Midas, he'll just be able to have already a really, really great amount of attack speed this early on. So phase boots. What I was saying is that it's a bigger damage item, so it gives him more damage early, which means more lifesteal. And I think if he had power treads, he actually wouldn't have killed that Darkseer quite as quickly as he did. So it gives you that extra oomph to your damage early, and it additionally just makes you so much faster. Lifestealer has the issue of, once he's open wounds somebody, if he wants to chase any other hero other than the one he's slowed, it becomes very difficult for him to actually do so. Ooh, another little bit late surge. Actually, he gets glimpsed out of it, so that was a very, very good kinetic field, so Lifestealer couldn't get out of that area, but a very bad glimpse. So the glimpse actually kicked the Darkseer to safety. I don't know if he'll actually escape. We're going to keep watching this. He is surged, so he's moving at maximum movement speed, but this open wounds... Oh, the cooldown isn't quite up. Still 5 more seconds on the cooldown. He might get taken down just by the speed of the Lifestealer. So again, you can see phase... Oh, very good play by Darkseer to actually get himself denied by the neutral creeps. So no gold to the opposing team, and then Bounty Hunter gets picked up down here. So when you get killed by neutral creeps, you actually don't give gold. It counts as a deny, essentially. So smart play by Darkseer there, but again, he would have escaped no problem if it weren't for these phase boots. These are very good because they make him just Lifestealer speedy enough to actually contest heroes like Darkseer, who can just speed around extremely quickly with this haste. But again, that kinetic field was actually very strong from Disruptor in the sense that it meant that Lifestealer couldn't get out with his surge, but then the glimpse was very not strong because it actually helped Darkseer escape, otherwise he would have just been a guaranteed death. But at any rate, this gold per minute graph, this is the problem right now for Dignitas. You're not winning early. In fact, you're sort of letting Empire dictate the pace of the game in some respects. And Lifestealer is farming much, much better than your Luna is. Partially because, he picked up that Midas, but partially just for other factors as well. So you can see that as a result of the fact that they know Lifestealer is developing so quickly and that they're not really able to do anything about it, Dignitas has decided to go a little bit earlier on their Luna than they typically do. So whereas your typical Luna build does have these Tranquil Boots and this Akala, which were the first things that he made when it wasn't clear that Lifestealer was sort of winning the farm battle, you would typically go Drums after this and then BKB. But instead, you see Aoi has actually skipped ahead. He will probably still make the BKB, but he's actually built this Yasha earlier than he normally would. And so what you see there is he picks up a tower kill as well, so that's very, very crucial for them also, especially to get that last hit on Luna, because the last hit for the tier 1 top tower for Dignitas was picked up by Blow Your Brain. So it's great that Aoi was able to pick up the last hit on the bottom tier 1 tower, because it's sort of again, you were aiming towards parity with this Lifestealer, and as you can see, his net worth is sort of just behind by about 1k so far, but that's going to be more and more as Lifestealer continues to use that Midas to get ahead. You can see he just activated it again. You can see his net worth takes an immediate spike. So this early Yasha essentially means that they want to go a little earlier. So they're going to be doing more damage earlier, and they're going to be aiming to actually press the issue before Lifestealer becomes really, really large. And additionally, it gives, the other thing that Yasha gives you is it gives you that early big movement speed bonus and attack speed bonus. So it means that you can get around quicker. And so if you want to start your jungle farming and not just your lane farming a little earlier than you otherwise would, it's very good to get that early Yasha to sort of get around faster and clear camps faster. And definitely this double damage rune doesn't hurt in that department either. Alright, so what we see now essentially is Dignitas want to press the issue. So like I said, they don't want the Lifestealer to get too far ahead. They want to sort of make things start happening. And so they put 4 heroes in the middle to put a little bit of pressure on this middle tower. Now Keeper of the Light is really, really good at preventing pushes, especially early on when people's health pools aren't actually that high. He's got this extremely big damage from Illuminate that's really substantial to early life pools. So you see this Enigma has, for instance, 739 health. Oh, very, very smart by Dignitas here. They're actually, this camp was stacked by Empire repeatedly to give that lifestealer additional farm, and instead Dignitas is picking off this stack camp. Ooh, great by Keeper of the Life. He actually picks up a lot of those creeps. So a recovery of some of the farm, denying Dignitas the ability to farm Empire's jungle. Great play by Keeper of the Light there by Goblak. But nonetheless, it's great for Dignitas to be able to steal some of the farm that Empire has sort of set for themselves up here. So if they stack, if they have these loot bags that have tons of gold on them, Dignitas can sort of just take advantage of that and use the Luna with her glaive to pick it off. You can see that Luna picks up the 2 ranks of glaive, only 3 and not the full 4 ranks of Lunar Blessing, just to make sure that you have that AoE, you have that ability to AoE farm early. Because Luna's advantage in farm over Lifestealer is that no matter how powerful Lifestealer gets, until he gets Mjolnir, which is a later game development item, it is what he'll probably make next, but he doesn't have it quite yet. He has really no AoE damage, so he can only farm these camps 1 creep at a time. Whereas Luna has this AoE, so you can see that she's just attacking the primary creep, but she's actually taken out the whole creep camp already. So this, over time, is going to give Luna a little bit of an advantage in how quickly she develops. But Lifestealer, meanwhile, has had such good early farm that he's actually going to build that Mjolnir pretty early. So I think he definitely will go the Mjolnir, because that gives you even more attack speed. It gives you that AoE, and with the upgrade from the Maelstrom into the Mjolnir, it actually gives you a little bit of a shield as well that does even more damage. The charged shield. You can see that middle is really an area of great tension. We haven't actually had a fight in the middle, but we do have a lot of maneuvering and counter-maneuvering. You can see this ward army, so we got this multiple sentry wards on both teams. The sentry ward is actually going to get dewarded by Empire. But you can see the sentry ward from Empire here, sentry ward from Empire here, definitely sort of counter-smoke gank positioning sentries in addition to counter-warding. So they really want to make sure that Dignitas doesn't have vision over this middle area. Huge gank attempt on SS here, and you can see that was actually the Bane ultimate. He uses it to sort of disable long-term the Disruptor and give them the space to kill him. 5 seconds is just a very long time. Fiend's Grip lasts a long time. And so the person you've disabled, it's tough for them to live unless it's within a teamfight context or you have somebody to actually interrupt that Fiend's Grip. You can see that this Bane, however, has just no items. He's playing the number 5, he's just sort of doing mass wards, and he's got his magic wand and his boots of speed. Luckily, you don't need that much more to make Bane effective. You're still going to have mana issues at that amount, but you know, he's okay with it because he's doing the full support role for his team, and there's nobody else on this team who can actually do that. In terms of skill development, you can see that he's actually taken 4 ranks in Brain Sap. Brain Sap does good damage, and it gives you lifesteal, so it essentially, it's a survivability and high damage ability. It's typically what Bane's max first, just because the returns of maxing Nightmare aren't that great. And Enfeeble, it typically was a joke ability. It's actually gotten substantially better than it once was, but it's still something that people don't typically max that early. But the 4 ranks in Brain Sap, give you a 300 damage nuke, which is quite strong. It's mana expensive, but does give you lifesteal. Great skewer and reverse polarity there. That's going to be at least 2 kills there. Huge kill on that Queen of Pain. Keeper of the Light Illuminate actually picks off the Enigma on the retreat. So excellent reverse polarity there. Kills 2 heroes essentially trivially. Magnus has gotten great development as well from that middle in which he was able to easily contest the Queen of Pain. He has his Blink already. He has his Arcane Boots. Bane is not going to get away from this either, possibly. Ooh, and now he runs in with Eclipse, manages to get a kill. Very good play from Maui there. He does manage to pick up the Bounty Hunter. There's still sort of 1-2 down here. I'm not sure they should press this issue. Yeah, they decided not to. It was just Dark Siren. Ooh, Glimpse is going to take the universe all the way back. He's going to be taking a ton of damage. He manages to surge himself at a very smart time just after he gets picked up by the open wounds. So he gets away, he's back in the mid, and we can see that, like I said, this was an area of great tension. Neither team was really getting kills, and then explodes out into this very violent situation. And Empire, I think, are lucky with only losing the Bounty Hunter here, because easily this Disruptor could have been taken down if Dignitas had pressed the issue a little more. But it was very dangerous, so it's probably smart that they didn't. And you can see that Aui's just skipped right past that BKB, so even though the other team deals a lot of magic damage in the form of that, the Magnus Skewer, the Magnus Shockwave, the Disruptor damage from his Static Storm and from his Thunder Strike. This is an AoE silence, the Static Storm. That was the electricity that you saw right there. And the Keeper of the Light Illuminate, obviously. They decided that they just need these fights and the more damage earlier, and consequently, as his first big item, Luna builds Mantis Style. So Mantis Style is a great item on Luna. It splits her up. All of the illusions will also do the cleaving effect. You can see those are pretty great auto attack damage this early. And the stats it gives you are stronger for Luna in terms of they give you the 26 agility, the attack speed. That's really what you want. You don't really want the stats bonus for the BKB. It's more of a defensive option. It's very strong for Luna to have a BKB while she's running around with Eclipse activated. So you can see that sort of smart players like Aoi 2000 won't just do the same exact build just because it's the best build or what have you. They'll sort of configure the build to what they need currently. And so he's got a much earlier development build in terms of damage in order to maintain parity with the lifestealer and give their team some threatening capacity early. And that's very, very smart. You can see that in terms of last hits, at least, he's sort of catching up with the lifestealer. Now, lifestealer has been part of a few more kills, I think. That was 3-0-0. And Empire's, no, they're actually pretty much even, and they are even on towers, but the Midas is going to make the difference. So you're still going to see a substantial gold per minute differentiator, just because this this Midas is making the difference here. Now this is somewhat misleading. Oh, Fog is in a lot of trouble here. And Bounty Hunter comes with, oh, wow, that was just huge damage. Essentially, the lifestealer ultimate allows him to hide inside of another unit, so what he did was hide inside the Bounty Hunter, who's stealth, so that's a great pairing, because you don't see either of them coming. He jumps out of the Bounty Hunter, which does tons of AoE damage when you jump out. The Bounty Hunter does all of his damage, and Lifestealer is able to follow that up with more damage. So before the Queen of Pain could even think to blink away from that situation, just a ton of damage goes out immediately and beats her up. You can see this Queen of Pain going this sort of new Queen of Pain build. We didn't see this for a while, and now we're seeing it more and more, which is that the Queen of Pain going for a Necronomicon. So when you see that Queen of Pain already has her power treads done, and then has a belt of strength, what this means is that she's going Necronomicon. So that's going to be a good item in this game, definitely. Necronomicon generates creeps that fight for you, so little orc monsters that fight on your team. And what they do a number of effects. At level 3, so Necronomicon is a 3-tier item. I'll show you on an item screen. So you've got your Necronomicon 1, Necronomicon 2, and Necronomicon 3. And as you develop it, the stats bonus gets better, and the creeps that you actually summon get stronger and stronger. So as they develop, the creeps actually become pretty beefy. They have an aura that increases the damage of all of your other units around them. They have True Sight at level 3, so they actually see stealth units, which is critical against this Bounty Hunter. And they also have a backlash ability, so I think at level 2 and 3, if you kill the Necronomicon units, they deal damage back to you. And at max rank, it's quite substantial. It's about 500 backlash damage. So this Keeper of the Light, for instance, who projects a column of damage that he can't really control except the general direction of it, could very easily have a huge chunk of his health. You can see he only has 739 health. A huge chunk of his health can be taken out just by the backlash damage from the Necronomicon. So you can see against certain teams, Necronomicon is a very strong option. And so I think in this case it makes a lot of sense that this Queen of Pain to build itself first. But huge damage from Empire to take this tower down. It's very hard for Dignitas to contest a tower kill like that. So Empire gets a little bit ahead on towers. They've completely pushed in this top lane currently, so they've taken the tier 1 and the tier 2. So you can see that both teams have 2 towers, but Dignitas has the tier 1 here and the tier 1 here, and Empire has the tier 1 and the tier 2 here. Now, tier 2 towers actually do give you more gold than tier 1 towers do, so that's a little bit of an advantage. But it's an interesting thing in terms of map control. So Empire has very little map control of this area, but very deep map control sort of this area. So just an interesting effect. It looked like Dignitas might try to contest the middle tower, but they may not. They choose not to, so if they think about it, they have 3 heroes positioned here, but they actually end up just letting Empire have this tower. So Empire picks up 2 towers, and again, this is going to rocket this Lifestealer's development even higher. You can see he's already sort of 2k ahead of Aoi, so very dangerous position. And Empire, they're like, okay, well, you haven't contested either of our tower kills at all, so I guess you're too afraid to fight us, which means, you know, we'll just take Roshan. Blairebrain's damage is just so huge right now. He's doing about 300 damage per auto attack. This Magnus Empower is just so fantastic with a hero who already does tons of damage because it gives the Lifestealer cleave and 20% bonus damage. And this is just level 1. By the max level, it's actually going to be about 50% more damage. I think Dignitas knew that Empire were doing Roshan, but they chose not to contest it again. So they're using Aoi to sort of counter push. He does pick up the tier 1 tower top, and he's going to try for the tier 2 tower top. He actually decides to back away because he thinks Empire are going to come in, which is probably smart. They weren't quite there yet, but they'd get there. But meanwhile, Empire picks up a dramatic addition to their arsenal. They actually choose not to go the Mjolnir on the Lifestealer, so they don't want to be that greedy in terms of giving them the AoE farm. They do want to win. And so the way that they're going to go to win is that they pick up the Desolator. So this is going to be great to just reduce target's armor. It's more of a sort of mid-game option for Lifestealer in the sense that it doesn't position him for that late-game AoE damage, but it's going to make him even more formidable in small engagements early on. And it's just going to make him a 1v1 beast, like to lower the armor of the target when you're already dealing so much damage is just huge. And then from there, he's actually going Heart. So he's built the Reaver, which is most likely going to be built into a Heart of Tarask. And what he's really doing with that, actually Empire, just the Empire creeps were enough to take down this tier 1 bottom tower. This is unfortunate for Dignitas that they didn't manage to get the deny here. That would have been some extra thing. But, so Yeah, he is building a Heart of Trask. And so, to sort of fill out Blow Your Brain's arsenal, after which point they'll just go balls to the wall, attacking and trying to win the game, he's building a Heart of Tarask. So this will give him a ton more survivability and strength, so it's actually more damage for Lifestealer. And it really will make him formidable relative to this Luna. But, you know, Aoi is still building that very, very aggressive style. You can see that he's still not going for the BKB, so he's completely eschewed it. And this is very, very smart and very canny of him. Ooh, he's actually tracked. Oh, very smart. He sees that he's tracked by Phonic, and he realizes that this means that Empire are about to go on him, and he immediately Manta Styles. Manta Style, the item will shuck certain kinds of debuffs off of you, so very smart from Aoi 2000. Just very, very smart play from him all game this game, to shuck that debuff as quickly as possible. And Dignitas just on the retreat, using multiple town portals to get away from this Empire attack. Good warding here to see that Empire were coming with their 4-person gang squad here. They're actually smoked, so... The Disruptor didn't have smoke, or he got desmoked, so very quick thinking, quick on their feet from Dignitas to not get picked up by that. They are counter-warding, so they do have a gem. Who's the gem on? Gem is on Bounty Hunter, so Bounty Hunter is their sort of designated de-warding hero. So we got the Lifestealer inside the Magnus. You can see this red glyph. This is what appears when a Lifestealer is inside a unit. So he's in the Magnus. The Magnus is stealthed. Oh, he's actually de-stealthed, but he had smoke up. And so this is even more dangerous. If this Magnus blinks onto a Dignitas clump and skewers and reverse polarities them, that's going to be the death of Dignitas right there. Because that, oh, he actually, Blow Your Brain decides to come out. So not the extra AoE damage from the Lifestealer ultimate. Just going to be a ton of normal damage. And he's finished his heart, so again, Blow Your Brain is just enormous. And it's smart of Aoi not to go the BKB because he's correctly surmised that the danger to him does not come from all this magic damage, even though Empire has a lot. The danger to him comes from the fact that he has to stand up against this Lifestealer. And the way that he's chosen to do that now is to build Butterfly. So he's actually has enough money to complete it. He does... Oh, will he get this tower? Phonic, amazing deny. Under pressure, he manages to get the deny. So that's quite a bit of gold that doesn't go the way of Dignitas, especially because their towers are falling in short order all over the map as well. But this Luna, so he's going Butterfly, and this is huge. This gives him that 35% evasion. That means he'll take much less damage from Lifestealer, which is critical because when Lifestealer hits him, he's going to hit him like a truck. Maybe even like a truck attached to another truck. Like that 30% extra damage that's going to become 50% on a huge base damage with armor reduction, he's going to hit extremely hard every time he hits. But this this Butterfly has given Aoi quite a bit of insurance against that, in addition to giving him additional attack speed. And just additional damage in the form of the agility. So very smart in that respect. They're going to try to pick up the Disruptor again. So the one thing that Dignitas has been able to just get kill after kill after kill on this Disruptor, and that's usually... Oh, but this Static Storm is going to put Dignitas in a rough position relative to the Empire, which jumps in. They actually only catch one with the reverse polarity, so that's interesting. Eclipse is actually already up, so tons of damage being dealt out, but this Lifestealer is huge, and he's got 6 seconds of immunity. He's on the Luna, but he gets stunned by this Malefice, so he's actually going to take a ton of damage as well. Great Black Hole. So they use the Black Hole from Enigma, which sometimes you don't really want to use on one target, but then in this case it saved Aoi and it got the kill on Blow Your Brain. His Aegis is gone. He's actually got Rage and Open Wounds up, so I'm not sure it's smart for them to pursue this any further. Quinn Payne manages to kill Keeper of the Light in the middle of nowhere, so I'm not sure what happened there. But that fight actually goes really, really well for Dignitas. Quinn Payne does get taken down by, and they get the kill on Lifestealer too, which is great because the just more and more damage and more farm for the Lifestealer to get. So, in the end, an interesting fight. They do... Oh, that was a huge glimpse, and they're going to pick up this Darkseer easily. He's got 3 seconds. He actually might be able to surge away from this. Not quite. Too much damage going out from the Bounty Hunter Lifestealer combo. And so, even more development for the Lifestealer. He doesn't get the kill actually there, but he does get the track gold bonus from the Bounty Hunter. So, they do save Luna, and they had to use a Black Hole to do so, but they do get her out. So she doesn't die. She's still 5-0-0. They got a couple kills there. They managed to pick up the Magnus, which was big. They picked up the Disruptor, and they picked up the Keeper of the Light in the backfield of play. But what they didn't do was actually kill the Lifestealer. They managed to take down his Aegis, but he just, he's immediately going to replace it with yet another item. And I think now that he knows, additionally, that fight sort of revealed the fact that he finished his Butterfly. So we could see this Lifestealer actually pick up an MKB, a Monkey King Bar, which is sort of the counter item to Butterfly in the sense that it gives you True Strike, so the opponent can't evade your attack. So he's already got 3,200. This is a little more than half of a MKB. So an MKB is 2 Javelins, which each cost 1,500, and then a Demon Edge, which costs 2,400. So in sum, it's 5,400 gold. So he's 4,000 out of 5,400. So yeah, actually almost 75 to 80% of the way to an MKB if that's what he wants to pick up to counter that Luna. Really, this battle at this point is just a battle of wills, and in each team fight, will Lifestealer win or will Luna win? And right now, Empire are definitely in a commanding position. They've got this reverse polarity cooldown up. You can just see the cooldown on this is so much shorter than the cooldown on Black Hole, like the 190 seconds for 110 seconds. If both of them use their you know, items, their ults in a team fight, Magnus will have an 80-second period in which his cooldown is up, but Enigma's isn't up yet. And consequently, that's an area in which it's very, very difficult for Dignitas to actually contest Empire in a meaningful way. Great ultimate from Bane there to disable this lifestealer, but doesn't manage to pick it. Oh, and here comes the Magnus. Great skewer. He actually doesn't use the reverse polarity. He still hasn't used it. He wanted to use it, and he didn't quite get the opportunity to. Lifestealer, meanwhile, is just beating up on Darkseer. He's actually probably going to get the kill. And Luna's in a lot of trouble now. He's taking a ton of damage. Does he have the money to buy? Huge Queen of Pain play. Actually, tons of damage going on in this lifestealer. Will they be able to pick him up? They do pick him up. Great brain sap from the Bane just before he dies. So they lose a lot of heroes, but their Raxus are still up, and Queen of Pain is managing to get pickups on the back. They do have to buy back, and Lifestealer and Luna both buy back, so this fight is going to be extremely consequential. They do. Blow Your Brain jumps in. Keeper of the Light, as his last act, uses ultimate and the sub-ability of his ultimate to teleport a friendly hero to bring the Lifestealer right back. So if you thought the Lifestealer buying back was questionable because he couldn't reach the field of play, you were wrong, and I sort of forgot about the Keeper of the Light ultimate too. The reason this Lifestealer bought back, amazing teleport here. Will he live? He lives! Blow Your Brain lives on very, very low HP there. It was extremely likely that he would have died in that engagement at the tail end of that engagement, but he manages to escape with his life. Very, very fantastic. I think he actually picked up a kill when he was in there. He actually managed to pick up Enigma, so not the greatest buyback, but not a bad buyback either, and definitely puts even more pressure on Dignitas. And he had so much money that even after that buyback, he has 4,000 gold. In 1,000 gold, which he'll be able to pick up pronto, he will be able to pick up that MKB to counter that Luna. Because in that fight, Luna, he did manage to pick off Luna, but that Butterfly definitely kept her alive long enough to sort of be a threat and actually managed to pick off all of the other heroes of Empire. And I'm not sure, I think the reverse polarity there was not the greatest from Scandal. He wasn't quite able to get the reverse polarity that he wanted. And so Dignitas actually escaped from that without having to use the Black Hole. I mean, the cooldown wasn't up. They're building towards that BKB so that they can use the Black Hole without really fear of reprisal or interrupt. And just great play from Dignitas there. Very, very composed. They do lose the tower, but they barely take any damage on the actual melee racks. So they don't lose the barracks, which would put them at a substantial disadvantage. They may lose Bane here? I'm not sure. He actually physically drops the gem so that another one of their characters can pick it up. Darkseer picks it up because Darkseer is more escapable than Bane is. So they do lose the Bane, but they actually play very smart. Oh, but Empire is chasing this Darkseer. Managed to get the kinetic field. Great vacuum, so Universe vacuums the entire Empire team onto the low ground to make sure that they can't continue chasing him. Extremely good play from him, actually. I thought he was almost certainly dead. And he might still be dead. Funnick manages to interrupt Darkseer's teleport at the last second in the middle of these trees by using the Shuriken Toss, which actually has a mini stun attached to it. And so Empire does claim Dignitas. Oh, he's in a lot of trouble. They use the reverse polarity. Him, the Static Storm is up. This lack of BKB is really, really hurting him now. He uses Eclipse at the last second of health, but it's not quite enough. He's down for 77 seconds, and Blow Your Brain is now in the field of play. So this is bad for Dignitas. This is 70 seconds in which they don't have this Luna. They don't have buyback. It's not for another 2 minutes. And Empire is going to knock down their front door. Very unfortunate position for Aoi there. And the lack of BKB that we sort of talked about it being a good decision, because it was a good decision. But when you're hit by that Magnus reverse polarity, when you're taking tons of Static Storm damage from the Disruptor, you're sort of... obviously the reverse polarity does go through BKB, but the Static Storm from the Disruptor doesn't. So he wouldn't have been silenced. He wouldn't have been taking quite as much damage. So definitely a rough for Aoi there. And he's down for 46 seconds. This will be Rax. Empire, without the Luna, Dignitas has no answer to this extremely high damage Lifestealer. And you can see that he's actually finished his MKB, and he has 2.5k gold on top of it. So Blow Your Brain right now is just a holy terror, and without the Luna, they have just no way at all of defending against him. Even the perfect Black Hole, they wouldn't have enough damage to just layer on top of it. This Queen of Pain has been doing great work, and the level 3 Necronomicon has been very key to some of these engagements, and he's got the Ghost Scepter to actually prevent himself dying to Lifestealer. But again, without the Luna, they just don't have a prayer of actually withstanding the damage that Empire can deal. And Roshan is back up, so actually Empire are going to take the Rax and immediately go to Roshan, and they will almost certainly just, again, because they have so much value invested into this Lifestealer, 20,000 net worth at 32 minutes, which is insane. They're just going to put that Aegis right on that Lifestealer and not even think twice about it, because it's just incredibly important to get those 2 lives. Actually, they may not. They actually put it on the Bounty Hunter, which I don't exactly know about. Bounty Hunter has been taking a much more defensive posture. He has been part of 10 kills, so 10 out of the 16 kills that Empire gets, he's been part of, which probably means 10 tracks, which is a ton of extra gold. And he's got the Vlads. This gives Lifesteal even more lifesteal, so it's very, very good. But I'm still not sure. I think they could have very easily given that to to Blurry Brain. Oh, actually, he ran out of slots. He actually got rid of his boots to pick up Boots of Travel. So this gives him even more maneuverability, even more ability to take a fight at any point that he actually wants. You can see, for 33 minutes into the game, every single slot Blurry Brain has is full. He's going to take out the Hand of Midas next, so he'll replace that with a different item. But still, he's just developed so quickly. His gold per minute is almost 800, whereas is 800 AoE 600. So for each of these minutes, Blurry Brain has amassed 200 more gold than AoE. So definitely very, very terrifying. And Dignitas doesn't even have the racks, the tier 3 tower here to save against this Lifestealer. And just in like 4 hits, Lifestealer manages to take the tower down to half, the racks down to half health. And so they do use the fortification, but I'm not sure it'll be enough to actually save this racks. So Dignitas is going to go down, losing 2 melee racks already. Lifestealer actually Boots of Travels. He's going up towards the top to block off this Luna. There was an attempt to counter push here from Luna, which may have been intelligent, but the problem is that with this Boots of Travel, Lifestealer is just able to beat Johnny on the spot and be even quicker and sort of just deal damage wherever he wants. Now, meanwhile, this sets up a potentially unfavorable situation for Empire at the top, but Funnick is quite strong now as well. He actually, with this, even without using the Aegis, he manages to just live up against a ton of damage coming out from Dignitas. Did they actually use Black Hole? They did use Black Hole, so they lose the Black Hole, they lose the Enigma, and they get almost nothing for it. They barely manage to get the Aegis down. They do actually lose this range Rax as well. And Bounty Hunter's back up, so they will kill him here. He will die, but... And it's the gem as well, for what it's worth. They get the gem back. So that'll let them do a little more counter warding than they otherwise normally would have. But very tough situation still for Dignitas here. They're now down 3 Raxes, so they still have this ranged Rax, but they lose the melee, which is really what causes the lane to move back and forth, and really the major bounty difference in the lane. So now it's going to be even tougher, even though Luna is actually ahead on last hits versus Lifestealer. Lifestealer is just so far ahead in terms of his actual net worth, so he's ahead of about 3,000 in terms of just the actual items that he's holding. So Luna picks up the Helm of the Dominator. This is smart. Again, he sort of wants his own little lifesteal solution to get some life back from the situation. Good stuns out on Scandal there, but it's not quite enough damage to actually kill him. And strong mana leak counteracting the Queen of Pain to actually means that she can't move around and get all of her spells off. If Queen of Pain has no mana, she's really not that useful. And Scandal pops a haste rune. They're just trying to get away from this fight as quickly as they can, not lose too many heroes. I don't think they actually will lose too many heroes. Where is the Lifestealer at right now? I can't figure out where Blurry Brain is. Where is Blurry Brain? Oh, he's back up here. He actually got teleported over by the Keeper of the Light teleport. So Keeper of the Light, meanwhile, has picked up Rod of Atos. This is actually really smart. Again, you want to make sure that your Lifestealer has the absolute maximum time on target that he possibly can. Especially now that he has this 50% Empower addition and the Cleave. You want to slow down and keep as many of the opponent's heroes in the same place so that the Lifestealer can deal damage to them. And so Rod of Atos gives you even more of that ability because it gives another slow on top of the open wound, so you can slow even more heroes. Forget Reverse Polarity. Even if Reverse Polarity doesn't land, if you can slow enough heroes that Lifestealer can actually deal damage to them, that's fine. That's all you want, really. And in 10 hits, he manages to pick up the Tier 3 tower. In another few hits, they will have Mega Creeps. Once Empire have Mega Creeps, it's going to be essentially impossible for Dignitas to climb back into this game. And you can just see this Lifestealer's damage is so incredibly amazing. They actually they actually break off the Bane ultimate, which I'm not sure was the finest idea. And Funnick is in there, he's got BKB up, and Lifestealer manages to just, in this chaos of this team fight, while Dignitas are desperately trying to pick off Empire's heroes, Lifestealer doesn't even care. He picks up the remaining Raxes, he picks off Luna, they both buy back. It's probably not going to do anything. Enigma gets picked off, he doesn't even have buyback, and his Black Hole isn't even up for 20 seconds. Again, the cooldown difference between Reverse Polarity and Black Hole means that Empire can just feel so much more confident taking these fights when they know that the Black Hole cooldown isn't even up. And an Ultra Kill for Blurry Brain. He's still doing that 50% extra damage. He's got a Soul Cuirass for even more attack speed. Luna can't possibly stand up to him, especially now that he has the MKB that goes right through that butterfly. He's just chasing. This is just a game of cat and mouse here. Oh, they actually didn't have Mega Creeps, but they will now. 5 hits to take down this last Rax, and an immediate GG from Dignitas. As soon as they lose their last Rax, they know that they absolutely cannot claw their way back into this game. They cannot overwhelm this Lifestealer. And just a game of carries here, and, you know, Dignitas just wasn't quite able to do enough to stop this Lifestealer at any juncture of the game, and consequently, he just gets absolutely insanely enormous. 31,000 net worth at the end of the game. Just a dramatic overwhelming of Dignitas by Empire. So, pretty close in the kill scores, but really, I mean, the tale of the game is just that they were unable to stop Blurry Brain. They were unable to do anything meaningful to actually kill him or make sure that he wasn't able to get tremendous harm. And consequently, he just becomes a holy terror. And the other story is really this Magnus and Enigma. You can pick up your Enigma to try to counter the Magnus, but you still end up with this 80-second period every single time they both use their ultimates, in which Magnus can use his and Enigma can't use his. And that is a dramatic... The difference between an Enigma or a Magnus that do have their ultimate and the ones that don't have their ultimate really is just a tremendous difference. And so just a tale of 931 gold per minute over 38 minutes. Just absolutely insane farm for Blow Your Brain here, and going 11-1. Really just making it so that Dignitas didn't really have any answers. Interesting game. There's going to be another game later. I'm going to commentate Team Liquid versus Navi in the raid called D2L. It's going to be in about an hour, I think. I think about an hour. So I'll stop